Okay, so we will talk about uh, today on this the advanced Linux uh, commands. I won't say commands, but this is the most used automation commands, right? You name it, we name it sed, awk. We have already learned grep. So sed and awk, I would say, is the advanced automation commands that you have to use, or you definitely have to know whenever you are as a DevOps engineer, whenever you are writing any automation script or any pipeline, be it on Jenkins, GitLab, GitHub, anywhere, right? These two commands you definitely have should have a good grasp of to solve most of your problems, right? So the first uh, would be SED, said, and the second one would be AWK, awk, or I would say rather the first one can be considered as grep, second one is said, and third one is awk. We had already learnt about grep, so I won't go much details now on that because we know what is grep and how to use that. Then what is said? SED. In simple words, it is find and replace using let's say patterns using regex. So we can understand now find means find a particular, let's say, word, text, and then substitute or replace it with your desired value. Uh, on what to do this? Let's take this as on a pattern, or let's say on an object, or let's say on a word, or let's say on a line of a file using regex. Using what is regex? Regular expressions. So we had seen a bit of regular expressions is that when you use caret, that means start of a word, right? When you use a dollar, that's end. When you use start dot, that's one or more, right? Like that, you need to pass regex to identify, hey, I want to pick up this pattern. And then once you identify, when you have picked up the pattern, what do you do with that pattern, right? So those are basically find and replace tasks are basically done with sed, right? I will give you a couple of examples to help your understanding more on this, because this you need to have more grasp on. So I will spend a bit of time explaining you more on this, because this requires a bit of thought also on how you are approaching it. So, and the other one is awk, AWK. It also functions in the same way. It is also mostly used for pattern scanning and processing, and it can be, I would say, more advanced uh, uh, functionality in terms what grape or said gives you. AWK awk is will give you a more advanced of pattern scanning and processing, right? And then means after you do that search of the pattern, then you can replace it with your own values. So let oh okay, I did not write it. Quickly write it. Use for pattern searching, pattern analysis, scanning, and processing. So these two are the most powerful tools when we are doing automation via, let's say, shell script, or via any bash file, or we are running any automation or designing any pipeline. We need to mostly use these. Now let's take one tool at a time. Let's talk about sed. How does sed work? So now we understand what is set on a high level, right? Set is basically find and replace using patterns. Now let's take a quick syntax and help you with how this looks like, right? So say we start with the command line set, then we pass the pattern, uh, and then let's say the regex, then the replacement value. Then if we want to pass any flags, then the and end of the it the file name. Okay, so how is this works? So this is basically starts with set. Set is the command line. Next is the pattern, on what pattern you want to target, right? Next is this small s. S stands for substitute, or if you pass s is substitute. Let's take one at a time. S is substitute, right? So it starts with your pattern. Pick up pattern. What do you want to do with the pattern? It's S. If you want S, then there is G, then there is N. There is lot of. We will come into this, but let's take up one. So S is that substitute command. Then there is that slash, that stands for your delimiter. Then is the regex, that the regular expression you will pass again to filter out uh, the object or the file name. Then because you are passing a substitute command, you need to, once you pick up the pattern on the value, because you are passing substitute, you need to put in what do you want to substitute it with, so that there comes the replacement value. And then if you need to pass any flags, is that, let's say if I pass a flag of G, right? Just taking an example. Let's say I'm passing a flag of G. So it's basically saying cells that replace all the items that you have picked up with the help of regex. You need to replace all the items that matches that regex, or substitute all the objects that matches with that regex in the entire instance or in the entire file, right? So there can be multiple filters. I'll come into one of each filter. At least syntax wise, it you did understand, right? Do you have any doubts on syntax wise? It's basically this is how it works. Pattern, then we pass the command, then the regex if you want to pass. If you want to more fine tune it, we pass this as a regex, then the replacement value, and then the flags, right? And then ultimately on what file you want to do that, right? Now, let's discuss a bit more on the flags. What sort of flags we generally mostly use. So I talked about G. G is basically replace all instances of regex with replacement value. So G stands for replace all instances of regex with replacement values. Whatever objects awards that matches my regex, please replace all those values, right? Next is P. All these are in small. So it states if substitution is made, then prints PRI, and here prints the new pattern. So what does P do? P tells you that if you are using a flag of P, means these flags, why, when do you use it? It's not so generic. It's typically for your use case. What is the outcome that you are expecting from when you are passing those sets, right? When we look into the examples, that time we'll get it more clear picture, right? What is getting used when and how we are using it, because these can be theoretical aspects, right? Just to make you one or two flags understand, I'm just writing up the theories. Otherwise, it you will get more puzzled, right? Because it's a very new concept for you guys. So it prints the new pattern space. If substitution is made, so what does it make sense is if there is any change or if there is substitution of values, then this passing the p flag will print the changes that has been implemented, right? Now instead of taking one flag at a time, let's go into checking on the examples that will make more sense. Yes, another thing, one more thing is that I want to tell you. So we had talked about this slash that we are passing as a delimiter, right? Instead of slash, we can have other delimiters also, like let's say ampersand or okay, let me. It's not only you should think that it is delimiters. It is not only restricted to slash. We can also use percent or at the rate or colon and likewise, right? We can use these delimiters also based on whatever file we are tracking out, right? Let's go back and create a new example file and let's take up few conditions. Start my visual code. Just putting some entries so that we get some data. Otherwise, scraping won't be possible. Okay, yes, one more term that automatically came to my mind is how we talk in technical terms. This is basically data scraping, okay? When we work with sed and awk, we basically just try to scrape our data. So it's with how do you do data scraping in Linux is basically in simple words, we do that with grep, awk, and sed, right? So it's a very technical or generic term that we use, I would say, right? Let's go there. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's do a cat, the geek text. Okay, so we have got a file now. That's fine. Let's now define our use cases of what do we need to do. Let's say in this file, right, text file, we have words of Linux, right? So I want to now substitute these Linux values to let's say a Unix, right? So there is one way of doing it. One way of doing it is you use regex on one line, and we can substitute those values. Like if it is starting with a line, you can use caret like last yesterday, and then we can target those lines one by one and do it. But if it is happening on bulk, right, then that running one single command does not make sense, right? Because it is not a efficient task that we are performing. In that scenarios, these things come more and more handy, right? So let's try to design or let's try to write uh, I would say a set command that will do that task for me, right? So can you also guide me how to do, or let's do it together, I would say. So it would be said, right? Now let's go to where were we learning? Yes. So I have passed the command. Now it is the pattern of what do we want to do, right? So we are trying to substitute a value. So it should be then S. Next is regex is what is the exact pattern or exact, I would say, yes, regex exact pattern or object that we are targeting. So for us, it is exact word that we are targeting is Linux, is this particular word, uh, Linux, Linux is this is the word. Next, what is the next word that we are targeting is our replacement value. What do you want to replace that with? Do an Unix. Next is the flags. Do you want to do it for one? Do you want to do it for all the instance? Do you want to print it? Do you want to take it to a new line? What do you want to do it? But one more thing, flags are optional. you can either pass it, or you can also not pass it. That's flags are optional, but the first command, or the pattern command, and the regex and your replacement value is mandatory, right? And this should be passed in quotes. Then obviously the file name, and let's see what it does. Cool. So now if you see the output, what it did was it just had picked up the word that was having Linux, the first word that is having Linux, and has changed that with Unix, right? Is is it clear up till here? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. If yes, I think there is a question again coming to your mind. Hey, you told us that it will do that for all the lines, right? But why it only did it for one? It's then like same as our normal commands that we run with regex, right? Yes. If you are not using flags, so flags has that power. So if I we discussed about a flag known as G, right? If you do that flag, pass that flag G, then it will do for all. So to show you that power, I'll also show you that. But to help you understand that flags are not mandatory. So if you have also these sort of use case, you can also support this. But let's do that. If you have passed flag now of G, so what it does is substitute all. It's basically substituting. It will substitute all the appearances of a word you using which is containing Linux, and it will replace it with Unix. So it's a combination of S and G, right? S is substitute and G is doing it for all the occurrences, right? Let's run it and see. So you can see earlier we had Linux 1 at two places, three places, right? I think yes. And now if you can come over here and see Linux change got Unix sysadmin, Unix scripting, and storage in Unix, right? This is the power of these set commands. Is it clear, guys? Any questions you have? Because this, I think this is a very new concept for you. If you had known this, that, or you can share with me. Yes, no, maybe, nothing. Okay, let's look into some other examples then. Now let's say I have a requirement of only changing my second occurrence or my third occurrence of this word, right? Of Linux, right? How do we do that? So again, it's mostly similar, but now it is only playing with the flags because my first part picks up Linux and it will replace it with Unix, but it's only the flags that now I need to change. Let's say I want to only change it for the second occurrence. How do I do that? Only pass 2. It will change it back to all Linux that you see with G got methodically changed. That's not now happening. Only the targeting the specific second occurrence of Linux word now got changed, right? So you can see it's Unix at the second occurrence, right? Any doubts, guys? No doubts? Okay, then cool. Let's take another few examples. Let's define our problem statement. Let's go there. So let's do one thing. Let's do write changes to uh, a file and also print the changes using Z, right? So if this is my requirement that whatever changes that I am making using Z, I want to print also those changes, right? Now let's try to design something. So let's again target Linux only because I see that word is getting mostly used in there. That substitution of values and regex you can target on any of your use case. Understanding the concept is much more important and your comfort level of you using it, right? So how can we do that? So let's just start with set, then let's put substitute Linux with Unix. Now is the flag part, right? What is the flag that we need to use over here? So it will be definitely G. Why G? Because now you understand G will target all the files or all the occurrences in the file of the word Linux, right? Next would be, let's, because we want to do a print, then P is also made, because if substitution is made, then print the new pattern space, right? So P flag should also be introduced and used, I would say, right? I think this should work. But if you want to again print it, you have to, okay, let's quickly print that and let's see what it gives me. And then I can show you the changes that needs to be done based on your use case. Let's see what it does. Did it work? It did change and it did print. But storage. Yes. Cool. Very good example and very good output. I want to explain. Yes. So can you understand the difference? What had happened when I used G once and when I am using G and P together? So if you are able to see, right, if this is the G's output when we pass do it for all and when we are again printing it, so what did it do? It basically what it did, the task is achieved. Okay, it did the changes to all the places which were having Linux. But what it did additionally is you can see the values got repeated. Means when it is printing you the output, you see number one, it's the line, and again if I'm passing G, right, so it's sorry, yes, P and G together, so it is printing the line twice, right? Whatever changed, wherever happened, it printed that line twice. So my desired output does not match this requirement, right? I only want to have where the change has been made and not uh, to print me the values every time, right? Wherever, and keep it to a double or duplicate those lines, right? Is that was not my requirement. So what can I do? Let's just modify this. It's very easy. So we you pass another w means write it to a file. Let's say output, and let's only take set of -n means print it on new lines. So now if I do that, what it did is, you see, it had only given me the lines where only the changes had made. So this is the power of set commands. Did it store on output? Yes, my output file also got created. And you can again reuse this into your next use cases when you are working with your automation or when you're working with your pipelines. I hope I am able to make you guys understand the concepts of set and how do we use that, because this would be your go-to commands when you're designing anything as a DevOps engineer. So any doubts up till now, or let's move on a bit quicker. Let's take a difficult example, I would say a pattern example. Let's take, so uh, let me write down the problem statement. Let's define it from here. Okay, so you see, cat clear cat of the geeks. Cool. So let's do one thing. Let's target this hyphen. right? So what we do is let's target this hyphen and replace this with some other characters that we want, right? Let's do this would be a good regex example, I would say. Let's target this and let's see how we can achieve this. So let's do it together, I would say. You can also unmute yourself and tell me how can we do that. So the first command, first would be set, right? Then quotations. Then the pattern should be slash. Then the regex would be hyphen is the word that we are targeting. What do you want to do that? S is substitute. Dot star for all. Double amp slash G. The keys and terminal. Okay, this is wrong because I have this should be ulta slash. Yeah, yes. Cool. So what did I do? So you might got again uh bamboozled maybe, but let me explain you what did I do. So basically what we did, if you first let's understand what changes we made, right? So what did I understand our use case? Use case is we want to target this slash or hyphen, I would say, and anything that post that we will do that pass it an empty line. So we will basically delete what comes after it, right? Is the problem statement clear? Is anything that matches with this pattern hyphen, then replace all the characters uh, from the hyphen with empty lines, right? This is the problem statement. So wherever in the script it will find this hyphen, it will replace all the words or line characters after it and keep it empty. That's why use case, right? So what did I do? First things first is whenever you are passing some regex patterns, these uh, extra, I would say this extra means when extra I would say means to have those escape characters. These in technical terms are known as escape characters because your system or your bash shell will not be able to identify those if you are not passing escape characters when you are putting in symbols, right? So that is the reason why you are seeing double slash or single slash, right? So what it this pattern means is you start it with wherever you are seeing hyphen, you it's starting it. These are normal our set syntax, this slash and this slash. These are sets normal pattern syntax. Then what you are saying is to give it an escape characters is the other way, other slash, other side directional slash that we are passing. Where we are saying is anything that's you get it with hyphen, substitute it uh, with empty. Empty is again hyphen and do that for dot star. Dot star is for all, and then uh, do that dot star means sorry empty and do that for all the instances that you find the occurrence with. So this is way we can do that. I know this can be a bit tricky when you are using regex for the first time or seeing for the first time, but if you keep a bit of practicing from your side, I think this you can solve it, right? I can give you two examples to work on. Maybe that will clear most of your doubts. Okay, let me give you two tasks to work on. Go to the chat. Task 1. So first would be delete the last number x from the each line. If there is any number at the end of delete the last number of characters from each line using set. So what you basically need to do is, let's say on my first line, we were targeting is delete the last x number of characters from each line using set. If this is a problem statement, let me give you the input also, or it can be any input of your choice. Just to make your life simpler, I'm giving you. So let's say what my use case is. I want to delete the last x characters from each line using set. So what it means, if you go to the first line and if you give a number of 3, so from last etc will get deleted from line 1, again etc from etc dot from line 2, again last 3 characters will get deleted from each line. That what is the expression that you need to write with said? I want you to work on that, right? Let me give you the input also. Input files, so that you don't have to hunt for the input files. The second problem statement, let me give you two problem statement. This can be a good problem statement. I'm just reading the input. Uh, do we have? Yes, we do have, right? We do have a hash. Hash is commenting. Okay. So this can become a good use case. Cool. So the next task, what I want you to work on, task 2 is eliminate the comments line using set, right? These can be the two tasks that you can work as your homework. So this will clarify more of your doubts on this input file that I shared. You can work on this, right? What is the exact requirement is, let's say in this file, you you have comments line also, right? How do you know which line is commented? It's basically that lines which starts with hash in Linux or bash is the lines that are commented. So you have it at two places, at the start and at the end, right? So basically, I what is my requirement is you need to delete line before line number 1 and before line number 6. These should be deleted using set, right? Please do practice this, and if you are getting stuck, please do come up with your doubts tomorrow, because these needs hands-on, more of hands-on practice, right? Now let's go to the second part and learn a bit of awk. Any doubts up till here, guys? No? If no is an answer, then that's pretty good. You guys are understanding. So awk is basically is easy I would say manipulation of data, and then generation of reports or generation of values, right? And it's basically more advanced pattern scanning and processing. And one more biggest advantage between SED and by using awk is awk can scan, or basically let's not put scan, let's put searches one or more files if to see if they match the pattern. So one of the most advanced features, or what is the difference between, I would say in one word, because between sed and awk can do it only on one file. Sorry, sed can do it on one file, but with awk you can search your entire directory or one or more files. You can do a search and scan on to work on your uh, find and replace what, right? This would be the major difference between the two, right? Any doubts? No. Okay, cool. Let's move on then. Let's now understand the syntax a bit. How are awk syntaxes generally working? Awk, then the search, then let's say pattern one, action, curly braces, stop, line. We can also pass multiple searches of together. So this is that powerful tool, very, very powerful tool in automation. Pattern two, action. Now let's close the file. So what it's basically doing is it has the power to pass multiple search objects or search expressions, right? Until and unless you are closing this quotations, you can pass n number of search that you want to do on that file or the multiple files, right? So what is, let's look at into it. So search is very much self-explanatory. Search pattern is a regular expression. Let's say what do you want to search, right? Search pattern can be the regular expression to, oh, I did pass a, there should be no hash slash in between. So basically it's, it did not print. So it's basically search pattern, right? You put in the search pattern regex. That is your first objective of your what you want to search. Second would be actions. Actions here means what do you want to do when it matches your search. So these are your actions. Second would be, third would be, you can see I can pass n number of search patterns with awk until and unless I am not closing my quotations. If I have n number of search, let's say 5 search, I can, until and unless I'm closing this quotation, you can put those in new lines and can work on it, or on the same lines is also fine. So how is that getting differentiated? This is getting differentiated with start of slash and end of slash, means it's one pattern, and then the action. Again, it's slash end, second pattern, second regex pattern, and then what is the action to be done for that, right? This is how it generally works, and ultimately the file name, right? So this is the general methodology of how syntax of how awk works. So if you take you to some features how that also works. Working method logic, cool. So awk basically it reads the input files one line at a time. So it basically, if you're even if you're passing hundreds of patterns, what it will do, it will take one line at a time. So it will read the first line, check if it has to make any changes, and then go to the second line, and the list, and it continues. So one more thing is how, so let's say if pattern one matches, does it do the action on that line? No, it does not, because you have passed also a second pattern. So both the patterns have to match, then only actions will be taken, right? This is the criteria of passing. Otherwise, if you have passed one pattern, right, then you can have done with set, right? Why again use this awk, right? So that is the more powerful thing with awk, right? You can pass multiple patterns for to filter, means in-depth filtering or in-depth more scanning of your data, right? Now let's do a bit of examples, because with when I do examples, it will become more clearer to you of what, how does this function in real time. Let's go. Is it clear what is the basic difference between awk and sed, right? No one will ask you these definitions, but it is mostly when we work or any problem statement is given to you, let's say on your interviews or on your work, you have to uh, work on these things, I would say. Yes, a basic difference can be asked when you're sitting for your interviews is what is the difference with major difference between said and awk. So these generally tend to come, I had seen, but it is mostly I would say practical scenarios that would be rolled out to you and you have to work on it. Right. So let's go ahead and see. Cool. So let's do first of our example. Let's with awk. Let me print out each line, each line from my file, right? How can it is can that be done? Yes, definitely that can be done. So let's do I have a file? Yeah, let's do that. Employees. So let's say this is my employees file. So what my requirement is print all of these lines one by one, right? And let's say in Python, this can be much more easier. And so if you know that in one language, you have to know that in Linux also. And Linux also does is very simpler also. If you know awk and sed, these things are very much functional and possible, right? So how does it work? Awk, then quotations, then print. I'll tell you what I'm doing so that with examples it becomes more easier for you. What is the file name? Employees, right? Cool. So it basically printed out my entire what I did with cat. That is a very simpler thing, but if you want to do that with awk, it basically printed out each line for you, right? In this example, we did not pass even a single pattern, right? Only we told them that the action, right? Hey, this is the action I want to do on the entire file instead of giving a particular pattern or regex to do that. Correct? Now you can ask me that what is that semicolon that you have used? So semicolon is again this syntax is any action that you are using should be delimited by a semicolon because we will be having let's say n number of awk commands, right? N number of search patterns and actions. So to close one action, a semicolon is required. So let's this would be the third for each statement in actions should be delimited by semicolon. Okay. So this is one of again and one of the things that you need to remember. Without semicolon, it will not give you the desired results. Now let's do a pattern search, right? Let's take up a pattern. Okay, let's take up Thomas. Oh no, let's me pick up some easier ones and then let's do a pattern. The easier would be let's say I want to print uh specific field, right? Let's say I want to print the value stored in yes with dollar symbols, right? How do we do that? Can we print that? Yes, we can definitely print that. Print it. Ah, ah, yes. One more thing. One more thing. Yes, yes, yes. You need to also know this. Is that okay? With awk, right? Awk has this unique power of let's say I when you are passing awk, right? These let's take an example of this first line. This first line has 100, Thomas, manager, sales, and 5,000. So basically, when I told you that awk reads each each input file one line at a time. So what it basically does is it picks up the first line and stores that in form of variables inside itself, right? So maybe it picks up 100 and stores it into dollar variable $1 and Thomas as $2, uh, manager 3. Basically it's storing in form of arrays, right? Or list, I would say. List of 1, list of 2, list of 3, 4, and 5. So if you want to print these positional objects, you can basically do that, right? So let's say, let me give you an example that will make it more clearer. Let's say awk of, I want to print the position of 2 and 5. Do I have 5 characters? 4, 5. Yes. So let's say I want to print the Thomas or the first name and 5,000, right? Can we do that? Let's try. And that will give it more clear picture to you guys. Print of positional argument of 2, comma, positional argument 5. And to complete this action, we need to pass this employees dot text. What is good. It did. So what it basically did is, for each line, as I told you, it stores this as its internal variables. So if it has 5 lines, 5 words, so one word is $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. So this is happening. It's its own bash compiler, right? So it will store each line, each word under in form of lists. What are lists and all? When we learn shell scripting, we'll go more deep. But it's we in Linux there is not that's nothing called as list. But just to give you an understanding, is let's take it is storing each of them in each blocks: block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, block 5, right? So what I told is, you give me the value of block 2 and block 5. So basically it printed out that, right? So number 4, awk stores words of each line form of blocks. Example, $1, $2, and dollar, right? So this is that form in which it stores these values. Another way is, let's say, this is just uh, is if you are not sure of the last word. So the syntax, it ends with N and F, right? It is so if I put N and F, so it signifies the end word of that line. So let me do that and show you also. So instead of $5, because the words here are very small, like the lines, so we are able to see that. But let's say if it is having 100 words, right, we cannot now read one by one and do that. So instead of doing that, if you do NF, it does the symbol. NF means the end word of the line, correct? I think this is a more to take in for today. Maybe let me continue a bit of awk tomorrow. You can also look it from your side. Work on those tasks, 2 tasks that I had put in, and and if you are not completed the previous tasks, work on them, and then we come back tomorrow. If you have any doubts on this, we can ask me, and then we continue into a bit more of awk, and then we learn shell scripting, right? So this is what I had for today. Maybe let's if you have any questions, please do go ahead and ask, or else we are good to close the session for today. Any question, guys? Uh, no question, guys? Good. Okay then. Please do practice. I had put that in the chat. Take those inputs also directly from the chat, and I've also defined 2 tasks. You can also work on them, right? And if you face any challenges, do let me know in the next class. I'll try to solve those for you and help you understand those things. Okay then. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining in. Let's meet tomorrow. Bye bye.